Over the last few years, we've had an incredible run up in the price of silver. And we've talked about gold on the Wealthability Show before, but today we're going to talk about silver. Why is it running up? Why didn't it run up before? And what's causing it? Okay, is it just supply and demand? Are there certain players that are involved with this? And because once we get all the facts, maybe we can make our own judgments as to what might happen to the price going forward. Of course, it is a great safe asset. Really, in my class of assets, it's a safe asset. It's not really an asset typically that you make a lot of money on, though I've got to say I've made a lot of money on it in the last few years, just because I thought it was a great safe asset. And today we have on the Wealthability Show absolutely the expert in this area, Michael DiRienzo. Michael is from the Silver Institute based in Washington, D.C. And Michael, it is absolutely a privilege and an honor to have you with us today on the Wealthability Show.
Well, likewise, I really appreciate the invitation. It's an exciting time for the white metal, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Awesome. So if you would, just give us a little bit about your background and what the Silver Institute does.
Sure, I came to work in Washington, D.C. In 1980, late 1987, 88, and I worked on Capitol Hill for a member of Congress from my district in California, and I stayed. I went to work for Toyota as a lobbyist for them, and then I joined many, many years ago, about 19, 20 years ago, the Silver Institute. We also ran the Gold Institute and the American Zinc Association. Now I am the president and CEO of the Silver Institute, and it has been around since 1971. When it was founded by leading mining companies, but they were looking to put information on key aspects of the silver market out to investors, newspapers, and so forth. And that was silver's industrial use. And silver at the time was probably trading around $3 or $4 an ounce. And over time, it grew to become a market development association. And with that, we create programs that hopefully at the end of the day will create greater demand for silver. So our member companies are
Oh,
mining
okay.
companies, refiners, end users. We have banks that trade in bullion, support a lot of our work. So, we've been here in DC in its entirety. We travel around the world giving presentations on silver at leading metals conferences. I think I've been to 7 of those this year. So it's been quite busy. The price started off the year at about $28.70 or so. And as we've moved through the year, a whole host of factors have led us to where we are today.
So, okay. So I mean, I remember when silver took the big jump back in around 1980, where, the Hunt brothers kind of tried to corner the market and they pushed the silver price of silver up to 50, and then it dropped way back down. And it kind of lingered, for a very long time in a pretty small range. So what is it? Now silver is used, but so is copper. So there are lots of metals that are used. Um, what is it that makes silver unique?
Well, it is, we have about 65% of its use goes to industrial applications, but it is the best conductor of thermal electricity. So it's used in basically everything that has an on or off switch. So anything from your automobile to your laptop to your desktop to the lights that light your offices or your homes. It's used extensively in green energy transition applications, brazing and alloys. It's also used, of course, in jewelry and silverware. And then you have the investment component. But what is really taking place this year is we were in the 5th year of a structural market deficit. We have more demand than we have silver coming to the market. And while there are above ground stocks, those have been challenged at significant points throughout 2025, where we had dislocations earlier in the year due to potential tariffs on silver. And a lot
Right.
of silver was coming from London, Asia, and Switzerland to New York. So it would be on the ground. In the event there were tariffs put on precious metals, gold was in the same basket.
Right.
Well, that didn't happen. On April 2nd, Liberation Day, he carved out, the president did, precious metals. So we were quite excited about that. We didn't want to deal with the tariff situation, especially since we only produce 40% of the silver we consume in this country domestically. So we rely on 60% of imports coming to the United States, and that fills our industrial and our investment needs.
So, if we can, let's go back a little ways. Like I said, silver seems to have lagged gold
Hmm.
considerably over the years. And, there was a time when silver and gold moved together um,
Right.
very, very closely. And they haven't moved together in a very long time, it seems to me.
Mhm.
What is it? And because I've heard a lot of different theories about this, like there's just big players doing short sales playing at short to keep the price down. What's kept the price of silver down? That's actually my bigger question than what's driving it to
Sure,
go up.
sure. Well, we popped up, a very good increase in tw 2011, which was sort of the aftermath of the financial
Sure.
crisis, the housing crisis. We did again after COVID in 2020 and 2021, and then it came off, right? So the floor for silver, I would say 2 years ago was about 25, $26 an ounce.
Mhm.
In 2024, we averaged $28 plus the average price of silver for the year. And I mentioned we started roughly at around 28 and change, 29 on the first trading day of this year. But what has happened this year in particular is you're seeing investors rally around alternative assets, including gold. And gold has set 50 plus successive highs throughout the year. Silver has broken the 1980 futures market level of $50 and change that was set in 1980. But it has continued to outperform. It's the best performing asset class this year. It's better than the stocks. It's better than S&P. It's better than gold, platinum, and palladium on a percentage basis. It's better than oil. It's just the number one performing asset this year. We've had about 125% increase from the first trading day to yesterday. And what's leading that is institutional investors are looking at silver these days. All right. They're very concerned about this market deficit. They're very encouraged by the industrial demand scenario for silver and its use in electric vehicles, its use in solar panels, its use in the 5G infrastructure, its use in data centers, which powers AI, which is the key buzzword as we move into
Right.
2026. So beyond some of the more traditional industrial uses, as I mentioned, brazing and alloys for airlines and so forth, or the joining of pipes. As industry goes, so does silver. And, GDP, global GDP this year may not be as high as it has in other years where the silver price sort of lacked. But investors are taking a look at silver, and it's a hard asset. We have a lot of geopolitical issues, right, Tom? Um, we had the threat of tariffs, and silver this year was placed on the critical minerals list. So what that means is that the United States government has deemed silver as a critical and strategic mineral um, for the country. So when you go on that list, you're automatically subjected to what's known as a Section 232 review, which we are currently under. And that review is trying to determine whether or not tariffs on silver in various forms should be implemented. And I think that's causing a lot of buyers into the market as well. We won't know until later this month or early January the outcome of that.
So why didn't silver move with gold previously? I mean, silver's outpacing gold now. That's
Mhm.
your, as I'm hearing you, is basically a supply and expected demand, right?
Right.
Supply and expected demand, expected supply, expected demand.
Mhm.
But why did it lag so much behind gold over the last 20 years?
Well, it was only a few years ago that gold was 800, $900 an ounce, okay? And
And more than a
it's
few years, but yes.
okay. Well, yeah, and then it got to 2000 to start the year, right? Or to start last year, I should say. But yeah, I guess those old paradigms are over, all right?
That's my question.
I think those old paradigms are done. And here's one key point that I'd like to make. Gold did not significantly move higher during the beginning of and the middle of the Biden administration with the inflation rate that we had in this country and actually around the world. Gold has not reacted to inflation as
Yeah,
people typically
which was
thought it would.
fascinating.
Yeah, it was really quite amazing. These metals do trade in tandem at times, but I think that people ask me all the time if the gold price is going, why isn't the silver price moving, or why didn't it move during that time frame? Well, people chose gold. I mean, the gold silver ratio got well over 100 just in the first quarter of this year. We're now at about 60, all right, 64, 65. So that would means 65 ounces of silver to purchase 1 ounce of gold. So that ratio has been coming down throughout the year.
Right. So, and what I'm hearing is it's supply and demand. So tell us about supply because Elon
Sure.
Musk just not too long ago was talking about a shortage of silver, and of course he's a big buyer of silver for Tesla,
Yeah.
and it sounds like he's quite concerned about it himself. So tell us about that shortage and what caused that shortage.
Yeah, so what caused the shortage essentially is you had some geopolitical issues in the significant mining countries, Mexico and Peru. They're number one and number two. You had labor strikes, you had presidential elections, and then, quite frankly, some of these mining companies couldn't bring the silver they had brought previously to the earth up to the ground. So if you look at 2023, we had about 811 million ounces of silver coming to the market. 2024, 813 million ounces, but that's off a high of almost 900 million ounces of mine production in 2016. There just aren't any new significant mining projects on the horizon that are what we like to call primary silver mines. And that means any mine that produces 51% of its ores is silver.
Okay. So we're not getting new mining claims. We're not people aren't discovering mining, though as the price goes up, I presume we'll see more
Oh,
exploration, right?
yeah,
We'll,
yes,
we'll, we'll,
absolutely.
we'll see more of that. That demand for more supply does that. What's
Hmm.
causing, let's talk about the other side of it. You talked about AI because the computer chips use it because
Hmm.
it conducts electricity so well. Anything else that particularly is driving that demand?
I think the four things that I mentioned with solar, with EVs, with 5G infrastructure, and with data centers and AI, those are the key drivers of industrial demand today. I encourage your listeners to go to our website and download a copy of our most recent World Silver Survey. Um, there, we really break down the various components of industrial demand, and we talk to those quite extensively.
So outside of chips and computers, what other what other like AI type technology is going to be using silver? What do you guys see on the horizon as far as
Well, we're looking
new
at
uses of silver?
Yeah, so we just put out a report last week. It's called Silver, the Future Generational Metal. And we talk about those four main components. When you look at data centers, which have grown by over 5,000% in just the last 3 years globally, but mostly here in the United States, you need a lot of power to run those data centers. So you need a lot of electricity. If there are solar powered data centers, you're going to have more silver on the solar panels that are used to power the data center. Down the road, as AI becomes more and more accepted and more adapted across the world, more silver will be required, not only in the chips, but in the powering of the data centers.
Oh, so all these data centers that are going up, they're using a bunch of silver.
Yeah, we don't have an actual number on it because it's hard to indicate, it's hard to figure out how much silver is going into each data center. But we can just extrapolate that if they've grown by 5,000 plus percent in the last 3 years, the energy requirements require additional or more silver and copper too. But copper is second to silver when it comes to electrical conductivity.
Just less expensive.
Just a little less expensive, right? Although the red metal's having a great year this year too.
A lot more abundant and a lot less expensive. So
Sure, exactly.
I get that. So are there new products that you see coming out or new
Yeah,
uses that are
yeah,
going to use more silver?
there are indeed. I mean, there's really not a month that goes by that we don't read about a new application for silver. If you look at our Silver News, which is a bi-monthly publication, you'll see all these little stories about new developments in silver. Silver is used quite extensively in the medical arena. Now, not a lot of it is used, but it's in wound bandages. It's a wonderful source of preventing infection and healing wounds. You'll see firemen in the back of their trucks. EMTs, first responders, have bandages that are laced with silver. You could go to your grocery store and buy Curad silver-based bandages, but not just that. It's used extensively in hospitals. It's a natural antibacterial. It's woven into the operating rooms, into the paints, into the walls, into the instruments, into the catheters. So that's another growth area for silver. And we can't forget about water sanitation as well. Water purification,
Really?
silver is used quite extensively, not only for swimming pools, but also commercial use. So there are some interesting not new, but growing uses of silver.
So I'm curious, will there come a point where we're going to start seeing a lot of silver reclamation projects? Because, I mean, for example, if they're used in batteries, they could
Hmm.
be reclaimed from the batteries. If they're used in iPhones, they can be claimed from the phones.
Right.
Where do you see, at what point do you think we'll see wholesale reclamation projects?
Well, when you see the recycling of gold and silver, okay, when these prices get to a certain level, people tend to sweep up old jewelry or silverware that they don't have. And why wouldn't they? If they're not using it and it's not precious to them, they'll go to We Buy Gold, We Buy Silver type of store. And we're seeing a little bit of increase in that, probably about a 1% increase this year. Um, but it's really hard to get silver out of a particular product.
Oh, really? Why is
Yeah,
that?
it's just really difficult. The quantities that are used in iPhones or Galaxies or in computers, there are companies that do specialize in that. But just think, I mean, you're looking at micrograms and grams, not
Mm.
even kilograms that are in some of these products. So it's just very difficult. And take a typical solar panel, for example. Depending on the type of solar project you have and where that project is located, you're going to need more solar panels.
Right.
These solar panels at first were coated on the front and on the back, called TopCon, and then they have been trying since the advent of silver in solar panels to thrift out of it, and they've been quite successful over the years. So they're using less and less silver, but they're putting up more and more installations. So installations are growing. Silver is somewhat coming off the panels, but just by the very nature that the insulations are growing, silver's use in PV continues to outperform.
How do you think the new legislation that takes away the tax benefits,
Mm.
a lot of the tax benefits for solar panels, where do you think that is going? How do you think that might impact silver?
I don't think it's going to impact at all. We sometimes become rather myopic in this country and think the United States is the only country that will produce these panels, that will make these cars, that it is a wide, big world. Europe, China, Australia, they will pick up the slack there. But it's true. The incentives have gone away or they'll be expiring at the end of the year.
Um, but you don't see a huge decrease
No,
in demand.
no, by no means whatsoever. As a matter of fact, in that report we just put out, it talks about rapid growth in electric vehicle adoption and purchases, not only in this country, even absent the incentives, but especially in other parts of the world. Will it replace the the internal combustion engine? I doubt it, but it certainly is an attractive alternative to those users
Mhm.
who don't want to spend money on gas or have an environmental concern.
So are they is silver used a lot in the hybrids?
Yeah, so when you look at an ICE vehicle, okay, so your old Toyota Camry 2015, there was just a standard gas-driven car. You had a lot of silver there. You had silver in all the contacts of those cars. And then as these cars became more complex, electronically, infotainment systems and so
Right.
forth, more silver was required. With EVs and hybrids or battery electric vehicles, more silver was required. And depending on the size of the vehicle, it's anywhere between 25 and 50 grams of silver, if not more in some cases, per vehicle.
So I'm curious. So how much silver would a Tesla Cybertruck have in it?
I don't know. We've actually had
I'm curious
conversations.
just because that's such a big vehicle.
It's a big vehicle, and unfortunately, Elon Musk and the gang will not release what they actually use to build these cars.
Got it.
Um, but it has to be extensive, right? I
Oh,
mean,
you would think.
it has to be.
You would think. Okay. So so I'm not going to ask you about the price of silver,
Mhm.
but is there anything on the horizon? Do you see that now Musk has talked about we're like into the 2030s before we catch up with the supply and demand? Do you see things like that? I mean, you guys looking at okay, what will drive more supply? Will we
Mhm.
actually catch up? I mean, like, we've had this problem in the housing market for the last 10 years, really, where we had such a um a dearth of of apartments being built. And now they've been built because there was incentives to do that. Okay. And you would think as silver prices go up, that's an incentive to actually
Mhm.
find more silver and actually spend the time and the money to do that, which is, of course, why gold, people always want to explore for gold because, it's
Right.
$4,500 an ounce instead of $65 an ounce.
Exactly.
So what are you seeing, or what do you guys see on
Well,
the horizon?
I think, every mining company puts out an annual report, and then they also put out either included within there or adjacent to it an exploration report. I do think at these prices, it opens up opportunities for these mining companies to either explore on current projects or to look at other discoveries within the area. I was talking to a CEO of one of the largest Mexican silver mining companies just last month, and yes, they are opening up their exploration dollars, but they're being very prudent about it. I think in 2011, they sort of blew some of their excess cash that they had with not, I mean, just throwing darts at certain areas of the world. But this year they're being much more prudent, and I think that's going to continue. We're not calling for a significant increase in mine production this year. Not one mining company can name a huge project that's on the horizon. And when you figure in that silver, most of the silver that comes to the market, 70% of it plus, is a byproduct of other mining activities. So whether that be gold, lead, zinc, or copper mining, um, those projects may go, more silver may come from those. But in terms of primary silver mines, it's really hard to stumble across one.
So how much does it cost typically to pull an ounce of silver out of the ground?
Well, if I go back and look at my World Silver Survey, which I have right here, I can get the number for you right away. But it's typically, I think in 2024, it was about $12 for a primary silver mine in all-in sustaining costs. So that includes labor, energy, transportation, everything. It was about 12, 13. So if the price is 24 or 25, that's a significant blow. But if the price is 65, there's a bigger cushion there, of course.
Right, right. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Again, Michael DiRienzo from the Silver Institute
Yes.
and silverinstitute.org, I presume,
Mhm.
is the
Yes.
website. And what would you tell? I know you're not going to tell them to invest, but what would you tell investors right now?
Well, what they should do is they should become educated on the potential volatility of all metals. Silver has a tendency in years past to go up fast and fall fast. But the fact of the matter is we have had a sustained rally in the markets in the third and fourth quarter of this year for silver. New floors have been set, 40, 45, if not higher, for silver. There are banking analysts out there who specialize in precious metals who are calling for an average price in 2026 of above $50. So they don't think this is ending anytime soon. And based on everything I'm hearing, whether it be anecdotal or on the ground, the silver price has much more room to go.
Okay, good to know. And I love the point about education. Encourage everybody get educated.
Hmm.
Don't ever believe what you hear
Yeah,
or on a podcast or see on YouTube. Don't believe it. Go do your
right,
own research.
right.
Silver Institute has a ton of information that you can go, do your own research and really get comfortable with it because this is like Michael says, it's an asset that historically has gone up fast, come down fast, in ways more like Bitcoin than like gold. And,
It's
uh,
true.
and so it's important to understand that, great, in my mind, great place to park your money. Is it a
Hmm.
great place to invest your money? I think those are two different questions. So I always think it's good to have some safe assets and it's good to get educated on everything you do from investing. And when you do,
Yes,
you're always going to make way more money and pay way less tax. We'll see.
exactly.
We'll see you next time on the Wealth Ability Show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Wealth Ability Show. If today's episode gave you a new perspective, remember this: the tax law is not your enemy. It's a roadmap. And when you know how to follow it, you can build real, lasting wealth. If you're a business owner or investor who's tired of overpaying taxes, the Wealthability Accelerator is your next step. You'll have the opportunity to work directly with me for 80% less than my standard rate. And I'll personally guide you through how to change your facts so that you can change your tax. Go to wealthability.com/bonus and apply today. Remember, it's not just what you make, it's what you keep.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.